Boom.
Here we
Boom.
are, gents. Let's do this thing. It's good to be with you. This is my water bottle. I've now used this for both of our recordings like this. I like that Forge glass, Sam.
Forge glass.
What's
one of
in
a
there?
kind.
Yeah.
That's 7-7. Got some drinking on the job. You know what I mean? Got my.
Come
One-
on.
one- and
Yeah.
And then underneath it, what we got? We got some Templeton rye. This is literally a Templeton rye bottle that had the top cut off, sanded down. This sucker is big. I'm gonna be feeling real good by the end of this episode. You know what I mean?
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
Sam,
Like,
I'm
dude,
gonna
That's
say-
pretty
that's-
nice. That's pretty nice. It is
Yeah.
pretty nice.
Sam, you do
Well-
and you do need to see this.
Talk to
So
me.
this is the show I was telling you about called Heroes.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the show from like the early 2000s.
Okay.
You see
You
Yeah.
that?
telling me about this?
Yeah. Forge is
Oh,
is similar to the Heroes.
I was like, what are you talking about?
But
Yes.
Forge is like
I see
Forge
that.
is like Heroes meets Live Strong.
That's
little bit,
where
I
it's.
think.
Yeah, I get that. That's where it's like Forge. You know, the ring. It's like
Yeah.
one ring to rule them
Yeah.
all. It's the reason we do that. So
Oh, really?
trying to take over Sauron. You know, sure.
Well,
It's like
the
it's a
ring to rule them all.
husband, wife, baby. That's the ring. Give me some ring.
Really?
Ring
Is that why?
Yeah. It's like forging a ring. You know.
Nice.
Yeah, that's actually it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's
pretty cool.
I'll give it to you.
MyForge.org. Yep.
Give it to you.
That's
One ring to rule them all is a pretty decent segue. So we're hitting a current event. So we're trying to do this like 1-2 balance where we're hitting content that we're passionate about hitting that's kind of like timeless, and then trying to hit more current events on every other as well. And the events that I've been thinking about a lot, and I think probably most of the people that listen to Modern Man have been thinking about, is all the different conflicts going on in the world. I think it's not unique to our time that the world is at war, but it's definitely different this time than it's been before. There's a lot of different conflicts going on. And I think that Christian men, Catholic men look at it and say, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, what am I supposed to do with the news cycle? What side am I supposed to fall on? And so I thought talking a little bit about war today could be a decent current event for us to hit. From just your guys' standpoint, like how up to date do you stay on the different conflicts? I know it's like day to day, but we're obviously in a ceasefire right now as we record, but there's ebbs and flows to it.
I was kind of commenting briefly. I'm like, I feel like I'm probably the most out of the two of you guys, probably the least aware. I mean, I think I've been watching the news more than I ever have, and that's just because I'm living with my in-laws right now. I mean, Whitney and I are typically not, news watchers. We're not. And I think the big reason there is because it's, I mean, for me, I'm sure there could be a case to be made of why you stay informed and why you should be made aware. I think for me, it's just always anxiety producing. I'm like, I can't do a dang thing about it. Like it's circle of control versus circle of influence. So for me, I'm like, okay, my circle of influence is I can pray for peace in the world. I guess, theoretically write to lawmakers in DC who really don't probably care what I have to say. But I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. There's obviously major headlines that'll hit, and I'll see like the big, I guess what I'm trying to say is the day-to-day news I don't really care to stay up on because it's usually just depressing. Like anytime I watch the local news, it's like, oh, there's a homicide over here. There was a robbery here. It's like, great. Why do I need to know that? I don't need to know it. But like, we were talking earlier, Brad, it's like, I remember exactly where I was when, Ukraine was invaded by Russia. It's like those type of like headline type things, I guess I probably keep a pulse on, but really outside of that, I don't lend a whole lot of my attention or time to keeping up with the news.
Yeah, it's kind of case by case for you. The
sure.
big events that are happening, but the details not tracking as much. No, how about you?
I do keep up. I definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
Brad,
left the group chat you guys were in.
I know.
which is fine.
Yeah. So, yeah, there was a group.
We're definitely
there is-
still in that group chat.
Yeah, it's called Politicos. Shout out to those in Politicos. It's a great chat. Sam had left it probably and he's probably holier because of it.
Probably a better choice.
Definitely have more time on my hands, that's for sure.
I do keep up with it. I think my big drive for it is honestly financial. I'm just trying to understand how the market's going to be impacted, which is probably my desire for control. So there's probably that behind it. But I keep super up to date. Yeah, we are kind of in a ceasefire, kind of not right now. Uh, Trump he's operating Project Freedom right now. We'll see where this goes, but anyways, I do keep up pretty intensely out of a financial reality. I think I want to know how things are going to affect my finances and how I should invest and how I should what steps I should be taking to to be a financially stable, financially free. But it's also for me, just in full transparency, also a distraction. So I enjoy it because the entertainment of it all, which is probably like terrible, but I really love watching just social
The world
dynamic.
burn.
A little bit. No.
You just some men just want to
Some
watch the
men
world
just
burn.
want to watch the world burn.
But no, I love the social dynamic of it. I love watching. I do actually. I'm very fascinated. I shouldn't say I love it or that it's like fun, but I do think I am fascinated by the social dynamics and the geo political sphere of like how people interact, the decisions they're making, the deals they're trying to make. Yeah, just like I'm very intrigued by how Iran responds because really Trump took out their entire like the Ayatollah right now. Trump did like the U.S. military killed the Ayatollah's wife, kids, dad, like killed like his whole family, and he's like, all right, now we're gonna negotiate. And I'm like, I'm just fascinated how that's gonna play out, right? Like, so it's those. So I think I'm fascinated by it. I think I'm trying to learn from it and see why people do what they do and how they do what they do and different ways of doing what they do. So I would say it's kind of threefold. There's fascination in it. There's an entertainment factor that's probably not healthy, and then there is the financial element that I pay attention to pretty significantly.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to stay up to date, maybe a little less than you know, but I tend to know kind of the big events that go on. And I think the reason that I stay in tune to kind of the ebbs and flows of everything is because first, I'm really fascinated by how leaders lead because I'm really invested in being a leader in my life. Like I want to be a person that can be a part of movements that matter, that do things, that make decisions, intense moments and make them well. And so I'm always interested in why a leader is making the decision they're making. And is it actually their primary responsibility to actually take and shoulder the burden of that decision? Or are they delegating that decision to a bunch of people around a table? Why are they doing it sometimes, not others? Like I get really fascinated by the leadership of the whole thing. And then I would say the second reason that I stay up to date is really because I think that we're living in a time in history that's going to be written about, and I'm really interested in it. So I think it kind of goes to your entertainment thing, Noah, but just knowing that I lived through what I think is a really, really unique time in history. We're at a time where, I mean, growing up, most of my childhood, adolescence, we didn't have cell phones even, let alone smartphones. Then smartphones come out, middle school, high school, everybody starts getting them. Then I go to college, computers are getting better, AI starting to get talked about, Bitcoin starting to get talked about, globalization's happening on a much broader scale because of the internet and things like that. And so I just can't get my mind out of thinking that we're in a time that's unlike many times in history. Maybe the Industrial Revolution, maybe things like the invention of the printing press, maybe things like the invention of the automobile, like things like that that provide a ton of freedom. But the scale that we've gone to is unbelievable. Like my great grandma, she went from horse and buggy to man on the moon in her lifetime, which is a crazy arc for sure. But we've gone from phones that are plugged into your wall to artificial intelligence potentially being able to have robots do most of the jobs that we have said forever are going to be the ones that are best for financial success for people. So it's a really intriguing thing for me. So I would say for me it's a leadership thing because I feel called to it and I'm really fascinated by how leaders operate and if it's in good faith, not in good faith, why it's in good faith sometimes, why it's not, all that. And then second, I would say just to keep up with this time in history and to to try to understand it as it's unfolding instead of being one who reads about it afterwards. That said, I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, we could hit obviously any of the primary conflicts in the world. There's obviously a lot that is always going on in the Middle East and in sub-Saharan Africa, but there's three principal conflicts that we hear about a lot. You still have like Russia, who invaded Ukraine, and they're still in a war. And we don't hear about it a ton in America because of all the other things going on, which is crazy because the casualties in that war are immensely more than any of the conflicts that we're probably going to have more familiarity with. But then you have the war between Israel and Hamas, but taking place in Gaza. And then you have America and Israel fighting the front against Iran. So I think that's kind of we also stole the Venezuelan president. So there's not just active conflicts happening, but there's been wartime decisions made. And I'm wondering, like, you guys from where you sit, what have you been seeing? What's been the rubs in that stuff? And I think particularly as like Christian Catholic men, because for me, I get texts all the time from people both in our spheres of influence and outside our spheres of influence, men that want to follow the Lord and follow him closely, and men that aren't as interested in following the Lord, but are really curious on what someone like Brad thinks about this or that. And it's been a challenge for me to always get my mind around it. But I wonder what of those conflicts stands out to you.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer first blush, not necessarily like what do those I guess it's not a particular conflict that sticks out to me. What I think sticks out to me is just how like this kind of like again, I go back to this all the time in our podcast, but it's almost like that's the virtue thing, right? So it's like the means between two extremes. Like on one end of the spectrum, you could be totally inundated with this all the time. Like all you're thinking about is what's going on with Russia, what's going on with Ukraine, what's going on with Iran, what's going on with America, what's going on with Trump, and like this hyper fixation on like the world. And on the other side of it, you could just be completely like, who cares? We're all going to die. And it's just like that kind of laissez-faire, just whatever is going to happen over here is going to happen. And there's some sort of like in the middle that I think we do have to take. But I guess when you say all that, Brad, the thing that comes to my mind, and perhaps this is why I operate the way I operate, is just the nature of, I think I do sometimes sit from more of a spiritual lens with this as opposed to a just kind of the world acting autonomously and in its human freedom kind of at war with each other. I think so often how much the news and world powers kind of bring to life what I think it was St. Paul talked about in one of his epistles of like, our war is not with flesh and blood, but with principalities, dominions, and angelic powers. And just how I think a lot of what we see is just smoke screens of the enemy, right? It's just like taking your attention off the presence of God and like, oh, focus over here on this war, focus in on over here on this economic collapse, focus in on here on this newest, like we were talking about it earlier. It's like I came home from work and I walk in the house and the news is on. It's like virus kills half the people aboard. A cruise ship. That's not funny. I'm not laughing at anybody dying, but it's like, okay, they neglected to say that it was 6 people on there. So 3 people died of a disease that is transmitted by rodents. It's not, you can't cough on somebody and spread this disease. And so it's like people just want to instill fear into the heart of people.
Well, even the way you pronounce it, it's like the people that used to be selling newspapers on corners. That's the way they would pronounce it, right? It's like, come one. And our headlines are still like that. We just read them virtually.
No, absolutely. So I think that's what comes to me initially. And I just, as a Catholic man, I think sometimes my immediate, I don't know if my immediate like knee jerk reaction whenever I see anything like this is just a skepticism, like a deep skepticism of, man, are we just getting played by all the governments? Are we just getting played by like our own government? Not in a conspiracy theory way, but I just constantly am like, man, this is just a distraction. Like this is the enemy trying to take Christians' perspectives off of God present right here, right now. And so I don't know. I think that's the thing that comes to my mind immediately is just, man, I try not to focus on it because I feel like it's just the enemy throwing smoke screens of like, okay, Ukraine's over here, and then we're not even talking about Ukraine right now, but there's a war going on right now. Is that right? There's still a war going on.
Yeah,
No one's
that's right.
because that's not what's going to sell. Like I think all this stuff is sometimes just focused on money, focused on attention, focused on clicks, focused on like how much money can you throw at a thing. It's like right now Iran's getting all the attention, so like let's just keep fueling it with anger and frustration, and then get upset with Trump about it, and then get upset with the government about it, and make more friction in our nation, create greater division. I think that's just when I say smoke screen, that's what I mean. I think it's just the enemy, like just like digging the knife in deeper to the wounds that we have in the world and turning people further and further against each other.
It's interesting that you bring that up because division, just there's incentive structure actually on both ends. You were saying like, are we just getting played? And I've thought before. Well, we learned in Vietnam there's incentive structure on both ends. Like, sure, the government and the powers that be, they probably have an incentive structure. Some of it's undoubtedly unto their own personal successes, but some of it's unto the success of what they believe the people are called to experience, both where we're going and where we are. And I also think there's an incentive structure on the other side to just challenge every single thing anyone in authority ever does for us. And that's a real tension in Catholicism,
Yeah.
right? Is because we actually look to a pontiff. We look to a head of the church to actually continue to lead us through in faith and morals. And there's questions on when is he speaking in absolute authority? When is he just speaking as a man? I think we can run into that same problem with worldly leaders too, but there's an incentive structure both on the side of the powers that be, but also on the side of the ones who want to be in power but aren't. So use them not being in power to challenge power so that they can feel like they're in power by just saying everything is always conspiracy. So it's a weird incentive structure to live in my opinion, but we can talk
well,
more
it's
about
just
all that.
it's bizarre too, because it's like one of those things where like never in my lifetime, and perhaps this happened with like Benedict XVI really didn't like kind of stick his neck out there for like national foreign policy type stuff. Like I don't really John Paul II did with like communism. But like I don't ever remember hearing about I was telling Whitney the other day, and I'm just could be off completely on my church history here, but I mean like really Pope Leo's conflict here with Trump in the recent months, it's like Pope Leo the Great and the Attila the Hun is like the only like that's like there's that friction of powers, but I'm like I've never seen it before where the church is literally like in opposition to the leader of the free world. And I think even to your point, Brad, it's like there's this that was very unsettling for me when that happened of
Totally.
Wow, okay, so here's like the president of the United States of America calling out the Pope of the Catholic Church, and it's like, what do you do with that? Because it almost feels like as a Catholic American, it's like your allegiance is kind of like split down the middle. It's like, okay, who are you gonna believe? What are you gonna do here? I think it's like it was a gut check in a lot of ways, because I think for a lot of people, it's like, okay, who you be loyal to? And then you hear all these rumors too from the kind of Protestant like minded America. Like when you think about America is not a Catholic nation, right? It was founded by Protestants. So a lot of the Christian social thought is, I think about a lot of the Christian influencers I know of. It's like when Pope Leo was elected, they were already throwing the red alarms of like, they just allowed a globalist Pope in, and he's going to be just kind of this socialist who kind of, is in opposition to the Western world. And I feel like even with this whole thing with Pope Leo and President Trump, it's like, okay, that's what I'm hearing all the time from these different influential conservative leaders here in America is like Pope Leo is apparently a globalist who shouldn't be trusted. It's like, okay, I'm still going to opt with Jesus here. That like, he's
the Holy
Peter,
Spirit might still be leading the church.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where it's, I guess what I'm trying to say is, semicolon on my thoughts here, and I do want to hear what Noah's saying is, I just feel like it's a very divisive time to be alive. That I feel like it's just the enemy is wedging further and further division into the nation, into the world, even so far as like the church and like the church and like conservative Christianity. I don't know. I just thoughts, but
yeah, I think. I've been wrestling a lot. I think that the first thing that there's a series of things that are on my mind in this topic, but I think the first thing is just the thing I've been reflecting on more than anything else is access. I'm like I, I just don't know. I've been wrestling as to whether or not access is good. Like, I think that's all of this is kind of drummed that up in me. And I think, like, in the human condition, what do? When something bad happens to us, we do everything in our power to never let that happen again. Right. And I think what we're seeing is like, I see America going through that right now with like there's been like, and I'm not even trying to compare on a level what these two traumas are, but like we have the like complete wool pulled over our eyes when it came to a lot of things that have happened since the 60s, right? Like, and probably before that, but since the 60s there have been a lot of things that have happened in America that have been pretty like unjust. And you look at, I mean, flash forward all the way to our last war, and it was a war, but it lasted so long. But like our war in Iraq, right? We know how much we know we should have never gone to Iraq. There was never any weapons of mass destruction. We know that there was like this was this was a money thing, and so I think with a lot of people right now, what you're seeing is there's almost this fight to know all the information, because if I know all the information, you can't hurt me again. And I think that America is just experiencing the human condition on a massive scale. So you have all these podcasts right now that are just talking nonstop about like basically saying like you won't fool me this time. And that's what I hear scream, whether it's like people saying, you know, Israel is like the worst thing ever, or the U.S. is going to war because of this thing and it's money, and this is what's going on in the military industrial complex, and this is what's going on in this, and this is what's going on. And it's like all of these things might be true. Honestly, I don't know where I land in them, honestly, but I think the reality is there's so much fight and so much wrestle because people are just fighting to make sure that they don't uh, feel stupid again, or they don't feel like they don't want to get hurt again, right? And I think so, but simultaneously we have all of the access now, and so but it doesn't feel any less foggy than before. In fact, it feels more foggy than before. And so the thing I've just been wrestling out of my head is this reality that when we went to war in 2003 to Iraq, I think the majority of people, from my research, agreed we should go to war with Iraq. Now, not the people that knew more information; they did not agree. Like most people around Bush's in Bush's circle were completely split and at odds, and most people didn't want to go to war. But the American people, let's just say this: the American people after 9/11 all agreed we need to go attack and send troops overseas. Right?
Well, it's like it's like the American thing, right? It's like, oh, you're gonna punch me in my mouth, I'm gonna double down and punch you back. Like I think when I think of seeing that 2001 war on terror, it was like, yeah, something completely terrible just happened. Now we're gonna go kick their ass. You know, it's like that mentality that is present in America.
Totally. But the funny thing is we had way less access then, and so we just all agreed. If that happened now, it would be so foggy because we have so much access. You would have 6 podcasters talking about like
because life's nuanced.
Exactly.
Because when you have all the data, it's more nuanced than you thought. Single factor analysis typically doesn't work. It's why conspiracy theories usually don't work. It's just single factor analysis. If you always come back to the same answer, you're probably wrong because the world's pretty complex.
Well, and that's exactly. And that's what I'm seeing this like, I'm just wrestling that out right now. I'm like, but I think we still hunger for the single.
Of course we do, because control it boxes me in. It doesn't allow me to get hurt. Yeah, it's all that. I mean, because I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at, Noah, and I'm thinking, what is it that's leading us now to really? I mean, to even not be able to have the nuanced conversation of things like the Middle East, because again, Iraq, like there's real problems with the way that we discern going there. There's also real human atrocity that was happening there, like real human atrocity. And now, again, people are leveraging that so that they can achieve their own objectives. But the way that the West treats human dignity is very different than most Middle Eastern countries treat human dignity. And that does put us in a precarious spot sometimes. I mean, that's why I love in the Catholic faith just war theory, right? Because it really has you wrestle with the morality of these things. And the more that we're introduced to all the information you're talking about, Noah, living when we do now, we're really starting to have to put on the big boy pants of what is the just move here? Like, how should we do this? Should we be in a war with the drug cartels in Mexico ever? Should we be at war, quote unquote, at the border? Should we be at war in Venezuela or Iran? You just name the place, right? I'm not saying we have a war in all those places right now. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it takes a real nuanced approach to say there are atrocities happening here. How much responsibility does an affluent country have to take care of the world's atrocities? I mean, those are challenging questions. Like, again, we don't want to ask those questions because we want to stand on one side of the fence or the other and then point at the other one and say they're wrong. But those conversations are brutal.
I'm going to play the side of the person who doesn't know much here, because I'm sure there's people that are listening here that are like, I have no idea what the frick you're talking about. I'm even the guy with the theology degree, and I don't know the answer to this. So Brad, you are the one who sounds like you were researching this recently. So I want to kind of know what your thoughts are. So when I hear the word theory, right? So when I hear like theory, I'm like, that means it's an idea, right? There's like, it doesn't mean it's like right or wrong. So could you just explain that a little bit from what you know of, okay, just war theory? Is this like, this is dogma, this is what the church teaches, you either are on board or you're off the boat, or is this like truly up for discussion? You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes when I hear that, I'm like, I don't know, like, yeah, if these conditions aren't met, we shouldn't be in war. I'm like, sometimes I feel like I disagree with that, but I'm like, is this just a moment where I have to swallow my humility and say mom knows better than I do? I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the Catechism does lay out certain criteria that would be required for a just war. So on the level of the Catechism, there is some instructive authority there. Now, there's always, when we're talking about things that are theoretical, like you're saying, some subjective discernment that's going to always have to happen, Sam, like Catholicism, rightly ordered objectivity meets a rightly ordered subjectivity. I would say the three kind of key points of just war theory is first, peace is always the goal. The goal is peace. The goal is not destruction. The goal is not like overriding an entire group or population. It is peace. Now, again, that gets really complicated when you have bad faith actors that are just wanting to exploit the fact that they know you're trying to aim for peace. So they'll act like it's peaceful just to do something nefarious again. So it gets really complicated, but peace is always the goal. Second, war is always tragic. And then third, the use of force should be like very strictly scrutinized. So it should be really, really looked at through a moral compass as the result. Like, is use of force what has to happen here? And so those are kind of the three criteria. So is peace the goal? Is like war understood to be tragic, not just another tool amongst many, but a really tragic tool that should typically be the last resort. And then lastly, have we scrutinized appropriately the moral conditions for what we're partaking in? And again, you can already see in that there's going to be some even tension when discerning those sorts of things.
No, for sure. Because it's like, even you take the thing with Iran right now, it's like when I hear, and again, it's like, Noah, you brought this up earlier, but the whole idea of we had the wool pulled over our eyes, right? And I sometimes can be a very trusting person, right? Unless someone gives me like a really legit reason not to trust them, I'm like, my gut instinct sometimes is trust. And so I like, even with listening to Trump talk about why did we go to Iran, and I'm sitting here like I came in and complained to my father-in-law. I'm like, what the hell? Why is it $4.30 a gallon for my freaking tank of gas right now? And, you're hearing in the background in your mind, at least I am, because I've listened to Trump's interviews. It's like, well, it's a small price to pay for freedom, right? For a terrorist not to have a nuclear weapon in their hands. I'm like, okay, yeah, legit. Like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, I guess if this is to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon, then I'm cool with it,
Yeah.
So I guess like there's
well, also, as long as we're all saying that nuclear weapons are tragic, that any of us even have them in the first place, because that would be another Catholic take, right? We can't take them away from people who already have them, but adding, yeah, it gets keep going. Sorry.
No, that's what I was going to say. But then it's like, then you get to the point where it's like, I don't know, they've all demonstrated they're a bunch of psychos. So it's like, do I really want, I mean, like no one else who has the red buttons pressed it yet. So it's like, I don't know if I want the people that are like making up that they've got a leader right now with a red button. It's like, we've got a guy in charge. You just can't see him. Like he's there. I promise he's in the building.
Yeah. But you can even hear when you're saying that, Sam, it's so easy to be like, obviously we should continue with the war because obviously we don't want someone like that with a red button. On the other side, it's like, well, the red button doesn't even exist. And it's like, wait, there has to be able to be nuanced conversation in the middle here. Well, and go ahead, Noah.
Well, that is where I've gotten to, because I was so passionate. I think this previous election cycle, I was so passionate about, I think that was the number one thing I was voting on, was I felt like one group was just constantly lying and another group was excited to take office and give truth. And I think that's like, I was like, I just don't want to be lied to anymore. And but like all I've seen is just a bunch of lies still. So it's like the funny, I think what I just recognized is like, okay, do I need to even answer some of these questions? I think that's what I've been asking. I'm like, do I need to, it's the whole concept of, and I think we'll talk about this a million times in a million different podcasts, but it's noise versus signal. Like in my life, why I need to ask myself before I'm giving my time, energy, and effort to learning more and talking about and giving, before I'm doing all this stuff to giving my time, energy, and effort to learning about the war in Iran, or seeing or watching anything about the war in Iran, and letting it take up my mental space. Before I do that, I need to seriously ask myself the question, what it is doing in my life that is helping me love my family, provide peace to my heart, bring me closer to the Lord, and put me further on mission in my life, right? Like, and I think that is like, how is this helping me love my wife? How is this helping me provide for my family? How is this helping me be the man that I'm called to be? And how is this bringing me closer to the Lord? If I can answer that, then I'm like for me, I listen to a Wednesday podcast that covers all the geopolitical things going on in the world, all of the economic situations that are happening, and all these current events in light of, like, through the perspective of finance. So I love this podcast. I listen to it every single Wednesday, like religiously, because it helps me understand, okay, what is this going to do to the market? Where should I invest my money? Where should I invest my time, energy, and effort so that I can provide for my family in a better way? So I love that podcast. But I had to, this group that releases this podcast on Wednesdays releases one on Monday and Friday. And it's a lot of just current events and a lot of opinions and a lot of, trust the government, don't trust the government. And I just had to cut those out of my life, because I was like, I can't continue to listen to these two, because this is like entertainment and distraction. And it's putting me in the place where I care too much about things that don't really matter to me in my life. And so I cut those two out, but I'm like, no, I'm going to still listen to this Wednesday podcast, because I can point very clearly to how this is affecting the signal of my life. And so it's like, for me, it's noise versus signal. If we can really focus on that and say, okay, like this is directly affecting these areas, which is why I'm allowing myself to listen to this or do this or respond to this, then I can do that. And I just don't think our world is mostly noise, and people are mostly noise with no signal in their life. They have no direction. They have no North Star to say, okay, in light of this North Star, this is why I'm doing everything else. And so we're just constantly caught in the fog and in the confusion, because we have no North Star. And so I think that's the most important thing, is like, how do we operate in signal versus noise?
Yeah, well, and yes, and within what you were saying about like the men that you are made to be, that I'm made to be, that Sam's made to be, that we're made to be as men, there's always this line that we're going to have to to draw between what is actually drawing our heart into something and what is the reason we give that our heart's being drawn into something that isn't fully true. Like there's this line between, so for me, it's been a wrestle with all of this stuff on, man, I really care about Western culture. Like I really care about what we have. I really care about some of the remnants of Christendom, and I really care about this apostolic age that we're living in, and that people would understand that it is a miracle that when you turn the light switch on, light comes on. That's unbelievable. There's no way that happens. You have running water in your house, and most people don't even know how that works, right?
Yeah.
Like myself included. Like there's tons of ignorance I have in all that. It's a miracle that we have this society that we have. And so there is a responsibility that I have as a man in that society to uphold the goodness of it, because it allows human dignity to flourish, because it allows the generations that come after us to live better lives than we live now. And there's a lot of ways I can tell that story and still just entertain myself. So it's for me, it's a real wrestle of having to be honest with myself, Noah, because signal noise, I think, is an amazing kind of frame for us. But you're never going to be able to actually tell yourself if it's signal or noise if you're not willing to be honest with yourself. If you're not willing to do the hard work of recognizing these are my patterns and tendencies, that I have a tendency to be able to frame a vice in virtue instead of actually living the virtue. This happens all the time. We see this in the geopolitical realm too, is I really like peace and I don't like people dying, so I'm always against war. It's like, are you sure there's not any vice in there at all? You're just the virtue side and the other side's the vice side, right? And then the other side will frame, well, there's tons of people around the world that have unbelievably hard circumstances. And if we could in any way, shape, or form impact them for the better, how would we not do that? Oh, and you're purely saying that based on the virtue, right? Because you don't have any vice either. It's both sides framing both their virtue and vice underneath the sheath of virtue. And we do this in our lives all the time. I do it with my wife. I do it with my men's group, right? Is I'm trying to defend why I'm doing something the way I'm doing it based on the positive side of it. But we're always both and. And so recognizing in my life, am I really pursuing the knowledge that I'm pursuing in these conflicts and things because I want to make an impact, because I want to carry a culture, because I want to provide for my family, because I want to be able to bond shoulder and shoulder with men who might not have my same view, but bring them into the things I think matter most because they can see that I've thought through the things that matter to them. Like those things are awesome. Or am I saying that that's the reason I'm doing it, but really it's because I want to win an argument in the Politicos group chat? Or really it's because I want to be able to take a stance that people are impressed by? Or is it because I want to be the one that says, by the way, we were all lied to every single time anyone's ever spoken anything. But when you listen to me, I'm the truth teller. This is where like all the huge rage around the conspiracy theories now goes, right? Because don't trust anyone but me, right? Like no one's ever told you the truth, but I always do. It's like, well, I don't know about that because everyone disguises things. Everyone has angles on things. So again, I think part of it's know yourself, so that you can actually begin leaning into that frame of signal and noise.
Yeah, and I think it is just so tempting too. I even in this conversation, so many things that both of you guys have said, I'm like, oh, I just want to jump on that and get in a debate about that. Like I want to jump on.
What, Noah? Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
What?
come on.
Fight me.
but it's like legit. But it's just so funny. It's like that is so dumb. That is so dumb. Like I only want to do that because it's just such a pleasant distraction. It is. Like it is easier for me to send an inflammatory text into the politicos, we call it politicos group chat, into the politicos group chat that just like, I know there's 4 people in there I can trigger, and that'll just distract me for the rest of the night until I fall asleep. And that's nice. It's nice to kind of disappear and just be distracted. It's the same thing as like watching TV or doing like, it's a distraction. And
Yeah, it's numbing out.
yeah, it is numbing out completely. And like when I wake up tomorrow morning, my plan is to wake up, it's to pray for an hour, it's to get in the cold plunge and then lift. I can tell you confidently that I would rather roll over to, and I keep my phone out of my room, right? I would rather roll over to my phone on and have it be right next to my bed, right on my nightstand. And I would rather pick up that phone right in the morning and just scroll, find an article, throw it in the Politico's group chat, and then text about it for 2 hours. That's what I want to do in the morning because that feels way better. And I didn't advance anything towards the direction of my life at all. But what I'm going to do tomorrow morning is I'm going to leave my phone downstairs. I'm going to pray. When I wake up, I'm going to pray. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to pray. I'm going to lift. And then I'm going to get on with my day and head in the right direction. And I think I just don't, I think it's taken a lot of honest conversations with myself to legitimately say, okay, I'm ready and willing to actually do that. And and like, I think I just had to start asking myself, what am I adding? How am I adding value? And how am I bringing the kingdom to earth right now? And I think that's so like sometimes overused and cheesy, but it's like, truthfully, I'm just bringing war upon my brother for my own entertainment. And it's kind of like that's what's happening. What we're even arguing about, that's kind of what's happening on such a massive level, on a macro level there. So that's what I think I've just been thinking a lot about, that I've been trying to scale back from, that I still don't do a good job at.
Which I think kind of brings it back to the smokescreen thing, right? So it's just like, it's all about distraction. Like, it's how can you be distracted from your purpose, your aim, what God's placed you on this earth to do? Because it's like, yeah, I mean, there is probably one sense where being informed is helpful, right? I think, Noah, I could probably learn something from you here of like, I'm assuming you're talking about PBD. Like, I could probably hop on and listen to PBD every Wednesday. Like, that would probably actually benefit my life. Like, to actually have some sort of, like, I would say, a fairly trusted source. Like, I could sit and listen to him on Wednesdays, and that would actually probably benefit a scope of my life where I could actually have an educated conversation with someone about what's going on in the market, as opposed to like, I don't know, God's going to take care of me. Like, there's an element, I'm just being honest. So there was like an element of even going into like, and, you know, I do trust the Lord. Like, I'm someone who, I mean, perhaps people could find a fault in that, but I think I probably opt in my life on a scale of like strategy and trust in the Lord. I probably opt on trust in the Lord as opposed to strategy. So even like, we locked in the interest rate on our home today because we're 30 days out from closing, and it was over the weekend. I couldn't lock in over the weekend, but on Friday last week it was 5.8, and then some stuff's happening, and it's at 6.1, and it's supposed to keep going up. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do this right now. And there's no doubt in my mind of like, Lord, I'm doing this right now, and I believe you're going to take care of me. And so just like doing that and moving on, like not giving it any more time than what it's due. But there's probably an element of like, I probably could have been more aware of what's happening in the world right now if I were to pay more attention. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, if you're a man listening to this and you have a proclivity like mine to be like, God's going to take care of me. It's like, yeah, but he also sends lifeboats, and he also sends like rescue helicopters, and then you don't have to die, right? It's like that whole joke of like, God, why didn't you save me? Well, it's like, I sent you a lifeboat, I sent you a helicopter, I sent you
all these things.
Yeah. So not that those things are going to save us, but I think there is an element of like, if you're like me, I think maybe take some use of the tools that are at our disposal. Then I think also, if you're constantly hyper fixated on the news and what this podcaster is saying, what this influencer is saying, what the market's doing today versus what's doing tomorrow, perhaps you just need to take a freaking chill pill, and you just need to sit back and say, okay, the Lord's in control and not me. Because I think, again, the sliding scale of virtue here, there's got to be a means between two extremes. And I think that's just kind of like what's resounding in my heart, at least through this conversation, is like, you can't live in, because you're either stressed out, anxious. Like, is that a fruit of the Spirit? No, it's not. So like, what's going to bring peace in your life? That's where I think you need to direct your aim.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing in both of you, just reflecting on where you guys are at in life, as I'm thinking about where I'm at in life, life's about integration. So there's 4 things that I want to do every day. I want to be in silence every day. I want to sweat every day. I want to study every day, and I want to serve every day, namely my wife and daughter. But those are the 4 things I want to do every day for the rest of my life. I want to be in silence with the Lord, because that's where he speaks to me. That's the most important North Star in my life. Who did you make me to be? Who do you want me to serve today? How do you want me to go about the things in my life? those are like the big questions in silence. What have you revealed to me, Lord? And what do you want to do in and through me, Lord? Silence. Second, I want to sweat every day because it's good for me, because it allows me to actually touch grass and be incarnate, to be in my body. Like, I'm not trapped in a body. I'm my body, my mind, my soul. I want to study every day. And this is what you're talking about, Sam. Like, I want to know things about the markets. I want to know things that are happening in the world of sports and in the world of politics, because a lot of people care about those things and I want to impact people. But I also want to steward my life. And sometimes that requires me knowing things about these things because it allows me to connect so that I can then move to serve. And I serve by the work that I do. Like, our job should be a way that we serve. We serve the people around us. We serve the entire body politic, right? Like, but most notably, I serve Nina and I serve Eliza. And if we can really, as men, look at our lives and say, did I sit in silence today with the Lord? Did I sweat today? Did I actually do something that moved my body, that challenged me? Did I study today in whatever way I could? Did I listen to part of a podcast? Did I read a little excerpt? Did I reflect on a saint quote that I saw when I was taking my time with the Lord this morning? Like, did I study in some way, shape, or form? And then did I serve? I think if we can look at those principles of a day, and again, we're going to hit and we're going to miss, but an integrated life is what we're called to. And in that same way, we're called to bring an integrated understanding to these really nuanced topics like war. Like, yeah, there's a reality where I should be really, really grateful that I don't live every day in fear of being bombed like some of the people in Israel have lived for decades. I should also be really grateful that I'm not in Gaza as a civilian that's been under an authority of Hamas that has had absolutely no dignified life and is now in the middle of rubble where everything I've ever known has been absolutely destroyed. Like, there's a gratitude, but there also should be a heavy heartedness that, wow, like, that's happening. And so, Lord, I'm grateful for what you're doing in me. Help me make whatever impact in the spheres of influence that you call me to, so that it could reach as far as the ripples of my life possibly can. I think those are fair things to wrestle with and try to integrate.
Yeah, you're right on, Brad. I think, just not that we need to dive into a whole totally different thing, but I'm like, even just what you were sharing there, man, like, that's, I think if I can just kind of name it as like an American Catholic, that's what rubs up against me a little bit, is like, because when I hear just war theory, and again, like, I'm not a theologian. I don't claim to know everything. But when I hear it, what I hear is basically like, we're called to be pacifists. I'm like, I don't want to be a freaking pacifist. Like, I don't want to just like roll over and like die and just like I don't think that's what Jesus asked. Like, I don't think he was like, turn the other cheek, because culturally turn the other cheek was like, you've got to hit me with the unclean side of your hand. By God, I'm not going anywhere type. Like, I'm standing right here. Right. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to turn over and die. I guess, like, I listen to people, like, I'm a huge supporter of veterans. Like, I love our armed servicemen. Like, my brother-in-law just got back from a tour, his third tour in the Middle East. Like, I have a tremendous amount of respect for our servicemen and women who like have gone to great lengths to protect us. Cause it's like, great, if we don't have a military that's in these parts of the world that are hotbeds for terrorism, where are they coming? They're coming to the homeland, right? They're going to hit us where it hurts. Like, there's an element that if we don't go there, they're going to come to us, right? And so that's what I struggle with. And I think perhaps, again, maybe some men are listening to this and like struggle with that same reality. Like, I listen to, like, there's an incredible man that I listen to and follow on social media, Don Razzo, who's a Navy SEAL, I'm not an alumni, but a Navy SEAL veteran, SEAL Team 6. And he was just a badass. Like, and when I've listened to him talk about his time of serving, he's a deep, devout Catholic man. Like, he talks about this reality of, my job is to go out and get the bad guys. It's like, yeah, like, I'm actually past the whole reality of like, there's not like, you guys are going to probably laugh at me here. I'm past the reality where it's like, there's not bad people. There's just people who make bad decisions. Bullshit. There are bad people out there. Like, there are bad people out there. And there are people who are like rapists, druggists. There are people who are coming to kill you. There are people who come to take your family. There are people who hate us. Like, there are bad people out there. And it's like that, the role of these people, like
like some of our servicemen and women are to go out and to get the bad guys. And so I guess I'm just going to be frank, and perhaps I'm going to get persecuted for it. I don't know. But like that's my struggle. It's like I read the just war stuff and I'm like, that sounds great in theory. I just don't like the fact that means that innocent people die because there's psychos out there that want to come to kill us.
That's
like
the wrestle.
It's
That's
just
the wrestle.
for me, and that's where I'm like, I'm just going to side with my family. Like if it protects my wife and my children from being pillaged and raped, I'm on board with it. That's why I carry a Glock in my house. Like I'm just being truthful here. All cards on the table. Yeah. It's like,
no, it's a real challenge.
Yeah. And I think as we kind of come towards a close here, I think the number one most important thing, and we will say this 1,000 times on this podcast, the way in which, again, I think we all have to assess our life is we have to look to what the church teaches. This is how I've been trying to respond, is what is my gut response? So when I am seeing as I'm looking at the news even today and seeing the things that are going on, or the day I saw that Trump decided to attack Iran, what is my gut response? What's my gut opinion? Like, what am I thinking about immediately? What's the thing that's on my mind immediately? And then taking that and then saying, okay, that's what I think. That's what Noah thinks. Then saying, okay, what does the church teach? The church teaching is the baseline. What I think is somewhere up here. You know, if this is the baseline here, this is where I'm thinking. Then in the middle is what the Lord is calling us to navigate, because it's never going to be what, like, that's where I go to prayer, right? That's where I go to prayer and I say, okay, Lord, like, what are you speaking in this? Because my opinion might be, you know, this is the greatest idea ever. And I don't believe that personally. But this war is a great idea. We need to go get Iran. Then the church might be saying, no, under just war theory, this is really hard to constitute as a just war, and therefore it's wrong. I have to say, okay, this is what the church teaches. Now, what is, again, the conscience speaking, right? What is, Lord, like, what are you speaking to me? And what are you calling me to walk out and live out? Are you calling me to speak out? Are you calling me to change the way I'm doing something with my family? Are you calling me to, when somebody asks me, to say it in this way or to say this specific thing? That's what we're called to. And so I think that is what is the most important, is, first of all, like, noise versus signal. What is my signal? How does this affect my signal? How does this affect my North Star, my direction? How does this affect where I'm going? That is the first question you have to ask. Then secondarily, if you want to go to a place where you really do feel like you need to have an informed opinion about this, then you say, okay, I'm going to engage the situation. I'm going to ask I'm going to really engage what my opinion and what my thought is with what the church is speaking, and then ask the Lord to fill the gap of what is the through line in all of this, where I'm going with church teaching and also with what I believe to be right, but church teaching trumps that tenfold. And hopefully then that becomes uniform. Hopefully then that becomes, because my whole life is trying to be conformed to what the Lord is speaking and who the Lord is through his church. So that is the goal, is that I'm eventually conformed, and that I wake up and one day I wake up and we in 50 years and we invade Iran again or something, and I can say, oh wow, my thought is exactly in line with what the church teaches. But I think that we as men, that's where we're striving to aim, is, Lord, come and fill that gap. What's the through line? What are you speaking? Here's what the church teaches. It has to never disagree with what the church teaches, but what are you speaking to me?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the thing that's tricky though is the gray, right? So, and this is where perhaps I could play the idiot card again. And I know we're trying to land the plane, so I'm not trying to derail us here, but like, there are people that I immensely respect that know a lot more about the Catholic Church than I do, that are saying there's a case to be made why we should be doing this. And then there's the Pope who's saying, don't do this, not explicitly saying don't do this, but he's like giving hints to, Pope Leo has not come out and said, like, America, you're doing the freaking wrong thing. Get out of Iran. Like, he hasn't been that black and white about it, but he's made comments that have been like, okay, this leads me to believe that he disagrees with what's going on here.
But then it's like, what I'm trying to say, Noah, is like, I don't think it's sometimes all that clear where it's like, what does the church, it's not like we're talking about contraception here where it's like, if you wear a condom, that's wrong. Like we're talking about like, there is a great deal of nuance here. And I just think that that's what it's so tricky in this. Cause it's like, you start talking about like, what's your gut reaction? You talk to 5 people. Some people are like, hell yeah. Like, let's go bomb them. Like I was talking to my father-in-law tonight. I'm like, I mean, I was emotional. I'm like, it's so selfish too. I'm like $4.30 for gas. And I'm here in Iowa. You guys are in freaking Ohio. It's $5 there. I'm like, can't we just go nuke them? Totally bad.
Oh. No.
No, I know we can't. Guys, I know we can't. Don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying, I'm totally joking here. Kind of. But like, there's that, what I'm trying to draw there. Please do not hear me say I'm actually trying to nuke anybody. Like I would not actually advocate for that. But there's that reality of like, there's not necessarily the black and white, like go open the appendix. Here's the steps of like 1, 2, 3. This is what this means. So I guess it's just like that. How do you make peace with the in-between? That's what I'm trying to say here is like, I don't freaking know the right answer because there's a case to be made. Like I could sit here and say like, yeah, I don't want them to have a nuke. Like that's sometimes a good enough reason for me after listening to Navy SEAL, after military expert, after like veterans who are all Catholic talk about like, there's bad guys out there, you know, like there's that element, but then there's also the side who have people who have never been in war before where it's like, just turn the other cheek. Like, why are we out there doing this? And it's like, I struggle with it, you know? And so again, perhaps you're like me and you don't know what to do right now. And I think, I don't know what to tell you, but it's just, it's a hard place to be.
I think that the beautiful thing is that nuance does breed in a place of nuance, relationship comes. That's nuance breeds relationship. And so like when there is not a black and white, I have to talk to a person in anything in my life. Like if I don't know, like literally as a child, if I don't know the rule about whether or not I can turn the TV on at 6 p.m. on Friday night, if I don't know that rule, I need to go talk to my dad and ask him. And I think that's the beautiful thing is like in this situation, I know, Sam, I know what you're laughing at. But in this situation,
that's what a 5-year-old's going to do is go ask my dad. No, damn kid's going to turn the freaking TV on. I was with the dad.
100%. But I think like that's the beauty of nuance is it's like when there's not a black and white, and the church does this so beautifully. And that's why I get so irritated nowadays with like so many of the Protestant things I see. I'm like, you're just trying to make something black and white that isn't. You're choosing something outside of what Scripture is teaching, or you're taking Scripture in a way that helps you to justify what you're saying. The church just plays that balance so well, where the church is like, I'm going to, especially in this area, right? In contraception, there's no nuance there, right? But like, or abortion, there's not nuance. But in this area, the church is like, I'm going to give you just war theory. I'm going to give you a theory on what this would be, and you actually need to figure out what that looks like by having conversations with people, like you said, in the military, by having conversations with the pacifists, by having conversations with people who know more than us in the church. And it breeds relationship, not just with our Lord, but with other people. And at the end of the day, that's what Jesus is trying to do through the church is breed relation. And it's so funny because in Protestantism, they're always saying, relationship over religion. And it's funny because the church, when you actually know what the church teaches, it produces way more and they're basically saying relationship over rules. But when you know the church teaching, and the world would say that the church that the Catholic Church has way more rules than the Protestant Church, and that the Protestant Church is way more focused on relationship. But when you know what the church teaches, the church is the one that's trying to breed relationship, whereas the Protestantism, and I'm generalizing, and I love our Protestant brothers and sisters, but they're oftentimes trying to breed more rules that, hey, like this is my opinion and you need to follow it. And so I think that's the beauty of nuance is that it always breeds relationship with our brother and sister, and even more so with the Lord.
Yeah, well, from a Catholic perspective, religion is the virtue of relationship with Jesus Christ. So it's a virtue that's unto relationship. I do think like the one thing that we can say is war should be a tragic last resort. There's a lot of details in the middle of it. And what I would say how it affects our life, this whole conversation, I think we first need to examine our lives. We then need to test our presumptions, and then we need to invite nuance. Like that's what we need to do. We need to look at our lives, say, what's my life like? What are the things I need to be focusing on? We then need to test whatever presumption we have, like, because all of us have defaults. We all have natural tendencies of believing this or that or doing this or that. So we need to test those presumptions and then invite nuance, meaning wherever those presumptions are, what's the other side actually saying instead of building straw men? Or what would it actually look like if I entertained this thing or invited a different thought in here? Because that's the beauty, again, even of what Francis was saying with the dialogue thing. And again, I understand that sometimes you don't have the dialogue because some things are objective. But I do think a lot of times in the world that we live in, dialogue's really the only way. But yeah, man, I love this. I think I could go for like another hour, but we will land the plane there. Excited about just being back, just excited to be back. So thanks for entertaining that topic. For those of you who are joining for the first time, this is Modern Man. We're trying to rediscover and redeem the heart of man in the modern world. And we're trying to do that in a bunch of ways. So subscribe and join us on that journey. See you guys next time.